Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. In Warzone right now, we've obviously got a handful of pretty solid meta weapons across the board. Some because they're super easy to use, some because they take out enemies incredibly quickly, and some for various other reasons. Today, though, I want to focus on a select few weapons that have the absolute fastest TTKs you can get at varying different ranges for varying different styles of play. These are the weapons with the best time to kill currently in Season 5. Now, the thing with a lot of the best TTK weapons in Warzone right now is that there's trade-offs. Now, there are a few weapons that are just inherently ridiculously strong when it comes to their damage and their TTK, and they're obviously going to be later on in this video, but also there's several weapons like this, the Tempus Torrent, which have a fast TTK and exist with a fast TTK because it is not a super easy weapon to use. It's very high risk, high reward, and if you're a player who can excel with this, you are rewarded greatly by just absolutely melting through enemies, regardless of where you're fighting. And the Tempus Torrent in this case has a 570 millisecond TTK out to 40 meters, which is very generous and very fast. Now, all the TTK stats here today are stemming from true game data, so they're as tested and accurate as they can be. Obviously, the site will be linked down in the description below, but for an MW2 gun, this can be used incredibly effectively as a sort of just mid-range option, pairing maybe with a sniper, pairing maybe with a better long-range LMG or rifle. This thing can actually fry if you are comfortable with semi-auto guns. Now, being that it is an MW2 gun, one, its base attachments not all that great, but two, you really got to focus on a few specific qualities, like for instance the control, the range, the velocity, and the firing aim stability. Luckily, with the Spirit Fire Suppressor, we're able to get some decent control, so when you are spamming this, it's still very easy to stay on target. Better velocity for a better hit scan range, and we extend out that effective damage range a little bit as well. There are other good compensator and suppressor options here, but for me, Spirit Fire was definitely the most well-rounded when I was just messing around with this gun and testing it out some. Ruin Heavy Support I also think is a really good option because while this is a little bit slower, a little bit heavier as an underbarrel, it's offering decent control properties, but better aiming idle sway and firing aim stability, which are ridiculously important on a semi-auto gun. Paracord would be an option here, but keep in mind this is only adding in aiming idle sway, not any firing aim stability, which is also a very important stat. So for me, Ruin Heavy Support's a little bit more optimal here for a semi-auto choice, but both of those would be viable. I also have the Outreach 4 barrel. This is going to help out with range and velocity, just making it obviously better over the longer ranges there. We got the 50 round extended mag, so we can just spray and pray and not really have to worry about ammo all that much. Then the 2.5 times Eagle Eye basic optic for like mid-range fights, some long-range fights there. As always with optics, use whichever one you are the most comfortable with. But yeah, for an MW2 gun and for an MW2 marksman rifle, this is slept on. This is really not talked about much, but it's incredibly good at taking out enemies incredibly quickly. Now, a bit of a much easier option here that has some pretty crazy upsides is our brand new STG. This weapon is strange because it is so good in its first damage range and then so average when you get into like the 40, 50, 60 meter fights, right? But this STG build in specific is looking at a 600 millisecond TTK at 35 meters, which is better than the better sniper support choices. It's better than SMGs in that range. So this as a sniper support, this as an aggressive mid-range option is pretty crazy. It's also incredibly easy to use, super low recoil. It's not as aggressive as, let's say, a BP50 or maybe a Supri or a Static or an MCW conversion kit, but its TTK is just leagues better than pretty much all of those, right? So here I like the Night Owl Model 2023, clean little optic for like the mid-range and whatnot, 50 round extended mag, pretty basic there. Paracord underbarrel in this case, better horizontal control, better strafe, general movement, better sprint-to-fire. So you're just keeping this thing aggressive, but also very easy to use at the same time. We get the C70 long barrel extending out that effective damage range even more. Also, our velocity is so good here that our hit scan range is pretty much everywhere you're going to be taking fights with this thing realistically. And then Quartermaster Suppressor also makes this thing a laser beam with basically no recoil because we're fully attacking that. This obviously keeps us off the radar as well. So this setup, while it's not, like I said, the most aggressive in the world, when you just have your sights up simply and you're pre-aiming a little bit, very few things are going to be able to compete with this in the mid-range whatsoever. By the way, as we are breaking down all the weapons and setups here today, if you enjoy the video, if you find it helpful, do me a favor, drop a like. It is always really appreciated. And if you are new to the channel or maybe you have not subscribed yet, let's change that. Every single day I got you covered covered with news, updates, patch notes, meta breakdowns. It's all right here, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Next up here, we have another more high risk, high reward option in the TAQ-V in semi-auto mode. For whatever reason, when you flip the TAQ-V into semi-auto, its TTK goes absolutely nuts. At 35 meters, we're sitting at a 641 millisecond TTK here, so right in that STG territory for that range and for that TTK. In general, this thing is pretty crazy. Definitely, like I said, a higher skill gap option, but also so good in the right hands. An interesting build here because of the specific attachments that are available. Again, I like the NIDAR here, a 2.5 times, a slate, a glassless. You could use a variety of different options here, whatever you're the most comfortable with. 50 round extended mag yet again, so we don't have to worry about ammo whatsoever. I actually like high grain on here a lot, extending out that effective damage range even more for a better TTK further out. Also gives us some decent velocity because it is kind of lacking on this gun in general. You're kind of limited with your underbarrels, but Bruin Pivot vertical grip is really good for a semi-auto gun, helping out with aiming, idle sway, and firing aim stability. And then when you're spamming it, while the horizontal is a tad bit worse, you are getting better vertical on there too. So just makes the gun feel a lot more consistent the faster you are able to shoot this thing. And then Quartermaster Suppressor, I feel like has got to be a no-brainer here just for the better control all around. Again, making the weapon a lot more predictable and a lot more consistent. And while this is a build meant for semi-auto in specific, if you had to run this in full auto, or if you picked it up and you hadn't changed it over yet, it'd still be very good there. And the base TAQ-V actually has a pretty reliable TTK as well, just not nearly as standout-ish as the semi-auto, which is just nuts. Following that, another strong semi-auto, higher risk, higher reward option in the MCW 6.8. This thing can basically be built out to be like hit scan at infinite ranges if you wanted to. This is a little bit more of a well-rounded setup, but it is very good at being a semi-auto spray and pray, just melt machine at the end of the day. So with this, we're looking at an 826 millisecond TTK at 62 meters, which is pretty far out there for a lot of fights, whether you're playing big map or even Resurgence. We do have the 2.5 times Eagle Eye on here since a lot of fights will be over longer range with this thing, and with this nice and clear so you can have that hit scan feel out to some pretty extreme ranges. 60 round extended mag is not something you usually see with weapons that hold this type of ammo, so completely fine here. You can spray and pray and really not have to worry about running out all that quick. The Spire point rounds on the MCW, for whatever reason, they've still yet to nerf. It gives you a 49% increase to that velocity, almost 1500. So like I said, realistically, wherever you're fighting with this thing, it's going to feel like it's hit scan, which is obviously really good. Bruin heavy support again for the semi-auto properties here is pretty clutch with the firing aim stability and everything. Paracord grip could be viable, but I feel like you're benefiting the gun more and keeping it more consistent by getting firing aim and aiming idle sway as opposed to just one of those pros for what it's worth. And then Spirit Fire Suppressor is also really good here too. Some velocity, some range, and then also some control in there too as you're spamming. So you're going to stay accurate, you're going to stay lethal over long range. Takes a little bit of getting used to, but man, this thing is so fun to use because of just how easy it is to stay on target and then put players down so quickly. Hey everyone, real quick, just want to shout out my friends over at G Fuel. It's heating up outside. We've got COD updates dropping almost every single week. We've got Black Ops 6 on the horizon, so whatever you might be looking for from G Fuel, they've got you covered. Hydration tubs to make sure that if you're going out and about in your daily life, you are hydrated, you're good to go there. If you're sitting down grinding some games, leveling up weapons, whatever the case may be, they got the energy tubs, they got the cans, tons of different flavors, so a little bit of something for everyone there. If you're ever interested in picking up anything at all from the G Fuel site, be sure to throw in code WhosImmortal at checkout and it'll get you a nice little discount. The link for that will be down in the description below. And then lastly, here we've got a gun that I'm personally a big fan of. I've talked about it a lot before, the RAPP H, which for whatever reason just keeps getting slight buff after slight buff after slight buff, and truly it's better than ever right now with some of the upgrades to some new attachments that were added in recently. For this, we're looking at an 899 millisecond TTK at 62 meters, so right around that same MCW range, just with a full auto low recoil option, so it's much easier to, you know, consistently attain that. And with this, we again have the 2.5 times Eagle Eye optic. All preference here. The 100 round extended mag, mainly because this being MW2, rear grips are not very good, the stocks are not very good, no need for a laser here, and the barrels are not very good, so you might as well go for an extended mag and reload a little bit less often because, man, this reload is very slow. high grain ammo, extending out that effective damage range even more, and you get some better velocity for that hit scan range. Paracord grip is great here with the horizontal control, makes this super predictable, and it speeds it up a little bit, which is always convenient on LMGs. You want them to be faster and more aggressive, and it's nice that you get the best of both worlds there. Quartermaster suppressor to close things out here, just again more efficient control here. So this thing is going to be a laser beam even over some of those longer distances like 50, 60, 70 meter fights, while maintaining that really fast TTK at the same time. So there's a lot of fun options if you're looking for guns that are just going to kill incredibly fast here. Some higher skill ones, some lower skill ones for varying different ranges. Hopefully we touched on all bases with these options here today. You got some fun ones to try out, but that's gonna wrap things up for this one. If you wrap things up, I gotta be more on top of this stuff. I promise I'll do better, but that is gonna do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor, drop a like, and of course, if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button on your way out so you can always guarantee you're up to date with everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.